final race before the summer break has come and gained the Belgian Grand Prix, and I am here for my ever usual race review. There's not much to speak about in terms of upgrades, only really Mercedes that brought a package, making changes to the side pod inlet, the coke/engine cover and the floor. Meanwhile at Alpine, I don't even know what's going on down there. Their own personal silly season continues. Otmar Safnauer is leaving, not even at the end of the season. After this race, they're making so many reshuffles around. I don't even know. Let's start with Ferrari this time. Leclerc was on pole. I am recording this bit right after qualifying, so yes, I know my inner Leclerc fan is definitely showing. Verstappen was 8/10 quicker than him, but penalties mean it was Leclerc on pole. What is it with this guy on sprint weekends this year? His best weekends have been on sprint weekends. But seriously, I gotta hand it to Charles for that qualifying performance. In mixed wet to dry conditions that a few races ago he was really struggling with. He said that he's been working on improving in those conditions and that work is paying off. The fact that he was qualifying P2, which became pole, in those mixed conditions, that proves it. It was one hell of a performance from him. Leclerc managed the race really well to boot as well. It was always inevitable that both Red Bulls would pass him, and they did. His race was always going to be with looks of Hamilton and Sainz and those guys. Hamilton did not let up all race, and Leclerc held his cool and managed things brilliantly throughout the race. He historically in his career has gone rather well at Spa, and given the bad luck and all that he's had this year in the first half of the season, I think he needed a strong weekend like this to end off the first part of the season. Ferrari in general. I saw this from Sarah on Twitter. Apparently Charles has scored 60% of his points this year in the sprint weekend. I did the maths and double checked. It's true. He has. If his best weekends come on sprint weekends, then roll on Qatar. Yes, I know. Inner Leclerc fan is still showing. A really unfortunate race for Sainz with that damage at turn 1. I dunna care why it took Ferrari so long in the race to retire him, but whatever. The incident kind of reminds me of the Max and Kimi one in 2019 at Spa, but just unfortunate for Carlos and Oscar. Ferrari seemed to have pretty good pace and he could have been up there in the top 5, possibly P4 ahead of Hamilton. Either way, if you look at the Constructors' Championship, I think if Carlos hadn't retired, then Ferrari probably could have overtaken Mercedes in the standings. But it is what it is. Just one of those turn 1 lap 1 incidents, I suppose. Now on to Red Bull. I genuinely thought Max was going to get knocked out in Q2. He wasn't, but I really thought he would be. 8/10 to P2 in qualifying. Jesus Christ, man. As I said before, he did a grid penalty that dropped him to 6th on the grid, but my god, that kind of gap to P2 is still just as nuts now as when Charles had that kind of gap to P2 4 years ago. And you know, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I swear GP is the only race engineer in the pit lane who can handle Verstappen on the radio. Honestly, the Max GP back-to-back during the race was truly fantastic. I think GP will be quite glad it's the summer break. He was just sounded so done with Max's shithousery. But 8 in a row, he is practically unbeatable. It took him a fair bit longer to get to the lead than I expected. Lap 17, I expected Mera ruined lap 5, but I was wrong. Max can apparently win the championship as soon as Qatar, and there are still 5 races to go after that, so that'd be something. This combo of Max and RB19 is just insane, and I gotta give credit because what we're seeing right now is something special. And as for Checo, he had a pretty decent weekend overall for once, if you ignore the sprint, which I'll get onto with Mercedes in a peri moment, and that wasn't even his fault. But the main race, he started P2, finished P2, took the lead on lap 1, which I kind of expected he would. I have nothing to criticize from his weekend. He actually had a good one. Yes, he finished a long wide behind Max, but Max is just in a league of his own with that car. Oh, and one of Red Bull's trophies broke again. Onwards to Mercedes and Hamilton's penalty in the sprint. I'm a pretty bit on the fence. On the one hand, well, either way, the 2 penalty points pretty bit harsh. 5 seconds. On the one hand, I can see it being a bit harsh, but I can also see the other side of the coin of, yeah, it was fair. He did just kind of drift wide off of the car, but into making contact with Checo at Stavolo, which ended Checo's race and put a hole in his side pod. I don't know, which side of the coin are you on? Mercedes had a decent race. As I said, Hamilton did not let up on putting pressure on Leclerc for the podium all race. He didn't quite get the podium, but I think he should still be happy with P4 and with the fastest lap. And Russell, I have nothing to say. I did not notice him all afternoon. At McLaren, I really gotta hand it to Oscar Piastri. He was ahead of Norris, who is a very, very good benchmark to have. Piastri looked like a genuine threat for pole position all through qualifying until we got to the latter stage of the Q3. And on Norris, I think he maybe needed a change of underwear after that moment. And that's all I'll say on McLaren, because as I said a week ago, I'm saving the McLaren chat for a video on said team on the 3rd of August. Aston Martin in the sprint qualifying basically ruined their own chances of getting to SQ3 when they took the risk of slicks with Stroll. I kind of fought them for taking the gamble. It's always great to see someone taking that risk. Someone's always gonna do it. This time it was Aston Martin. The risk that they took, it basically ruined his and Alonso's chances of getting to SQ3 because they waited till the end with Alonso for a lap. But I mean, they've really fallen off the cliff, haven't Aston Martin? Like, genuinely, what has happened to this team? Down at Haas, I have to comment, what was Kevin doing here? He'd gone off before on that lap, so his lap was done. Why did he just sit there in front of Charles, who was on a flyer for like half of Sector 2? Magnussen rightfully got a 3-place grid penalty for it. It's moments like this where something Charles said in 2018 comes to mind.
Magnussen is and will always be stupid.
And how the hell did Haas fuck up Hulk's last runs in Q1 in both Friday and then SQ1 on Saturday? He did not get a lap time in either of them. How did they make the same mistake twice? Williams, I cannot lie, I expected more for them this weekend. Their car is slippery in a straight line, and it seems to be better on high-speed tracks like Spa is, and they were better in the main race in race day. That has to be said. Albon was rapid in the straight line. I don't think anyone was quicker in a straight line than the Williams was, and at one point in the early stage of the race, I genuinely thought he could finish well in the points. It just never came together for Williams in the long run. To Alpine, that was a pretty bit of an up and down weekend. They had a great sprint with Gasly, taking advantage of the pitting period at the start and getting him up into P3 where he finished. It's really great to see Gasly finally get a good result this season. I do quite like Gasly. The main race was not quite as fruitful for the French team, but they made some brilliant overtakes. Like, seriously, those Alpines were making some moves. And I got nothing on Alfa Romeo. I did not notice them. Or AlphaTauri, apart from Tsunoda was really flying in the early stages of the sprint. Overall, it was a decent race. It was a decently entertaining weekend. Sometimes Spa can be a pretty bit boring, but I don't think that was the case this year. It was a good watch. Some great charges up the field, no matter what kind of result they ended up in. Some great overtakes, a bit of rain sprinkled in, and then, you know, Charles on the podium. As I know, my inner Leclerc fan is showing again. What did you think of the Belgian Grand Prix? Let me get your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.